So we'll see what functions are and how the functions can be used in PHP. So the functions are very similar to the functions we used in C programming language. So we'll see function definition, scope of variables, okay, that is local and global scope. Then come with static variables, how the static variables can be helpful. Anonymous functions, creating of anonymous function in PHP. Working with references means we can pass by value or pass by reference can be the mechanism. And the recursive functions. So we can write our own function. That syntax is like function followed by a function name. So if you look over here at this point, uh, this is the syntax for creating a functions. So functions, generally we know that we are going to make a modular programming or functional programming, with the help of which you can able to divide the task, okay, into some smaller modules or smaller tasks, okay, that we can uh, call the same function for multiple number of times. Okay, so here this is a function with no arguments or no parameters. So similarly we can able to pass the parameters to the function. So it is in this example you can see the function hello, and simply it is trying to display an hello world. Okay, so how to make a function call is very similar like other programming languages. Name of the function followed by an open and close parenthesis with a semicolon. If you do have an argument, then we can pass an argument instead of this. Okay. So argument is actually a value that you pass to a function, and parameter is a variable that within the function that receives the argument. Okay, so in general the people use this interchangeable, like what is an argument and what is an parameter is, but generally the argument is a value that you pass to a function. Means when the function calling, well, if you want to try a square root, okay, square root of dollar a. So here in this case this dollar a will be passed as an argument, and here in the this we call, this is a function call. Okay, so now in the function call it can be referred to as an argument. When it is receiving into inside a function, there we call it as an parameter. Okay, so here if you see that how to pass the parameters, you can provide a list of parameters separated by a semicolon, sorry, separated by a comma. Those may number of commas you can pass to have a parameters. Okay, now see this example, we are passing two parameters here. So this is all about the template which we refer to as an HTML content. From here the PHP begin, and this is the definition of a function. Okay, function name is hello with style. So it is taking two things, one is font and another one is size. These two are what? Parameters. So these two parameters, we are passing the parameters here. Okay, like this is a font family Helvetica, and this is a size. Okay, so what happened, three times we are calling a function, okay, and we are passing three different font families. So we are just trying to write a font family with this variable called as a font. Okay, and the font size we are writing with the help of a this variable called as a size here. Okay, so this hello world will be displayed in three different formats now. One is with an font family of Helvetica, of 2, of Times New Roman of 3, and Courier of 1.5. So it displays three different values upon the screen. So this is just a simple mechanism of passing a parameters to a function. Okay, so optional parameters and default parameters. So what do you mean by this? In other programming language you could have been observed in Java that if you are writing a function or a method, then this could be a my function, okay, which can take say parameters. So this parameter p1 can be assigned to some value. Okay, this we refer to as an default value. Okay, so default values are nothing but if you're calling this function, if I'm calling this function my func, okay, with no arguments, okay, what happened, it tries to take this dollar p1 as a value called as in 10. So this is an optional parameter, so it will behave like an optional parameter. Okay, so see this example here, size is equal to 1.5. so can you tell what will happen if I don't provide size now? When I'm calling a function, I don't provide a size here. So what is the default size then? will the default size for this third function call?
1.5.
Yeah, absolutely true that this is a 1.5. Okay, so this can also behave like an uh, you can pass multiple number of optional parameters, okay, separated by again comma. Okay, so suppose if you want to specify color, dollar color, okay, equal to red. Okay, so what I am providing, that this value is fixed now, called as color red. So every time the color will be printed as a red if I don't provide any external color to this. Okay, right. So this is all about default and optional parameters. Returning values from a function. So how to return a value? So other programming languages support a keyword called as a return. The very similar keyword here, return keyword can be used to return a value. Okay, but in other programming languages you have data type. That's the reason you will be specifying that what type of data need to be written by your function. Like for example, in a C programming language, you want to return a double, okay, or you want to return a float of square root. So I'm writing a function called as square root, which takes an parameter, so like int of x. So I want to return, so the return type is specified here, but here no return type can be specified because it's a typeless programming language, hence the reason no need of an return type. Okay, so now by you can write a normal return also, okay, without a variable. So if you see in the previous case, you can return a value actually. So simple, you can also write a return, which what it will do, it simply exit from the function at that point wherever the return do encounter. For suppose if I am writing a function, a function fun1, okay, and here I written some statements like I'm trying to check whether factorial, for example. Okay, so I want to check whether the given number factorial for a given number. Then I'll write some statements in between. If I write return, for example, suppose this is a line number 5, you think, then the line number 5, it will return to where it will return, the control will be returned to the calling code. Who will be calling to this? Suppose if I'm calling this factorial like 5, then it will be written over here without any simple value will be returned. A normal return statement will just exit out of that function. Okay, so understanding variable scope. So how many different types of scopes are there generally? We refer to as a local scope and global scope. Now here, if you observe, this hello and world are two variables here. Okay, so these two variables are now local to this function. Okay, so however, if you try to access these variables outside of this function, cannot be accessed. Okay, that you remember very carefully. The variables which are inside of an function are local to that function only. Okay, and if you are trying to access that outside of a function, so it will never give any value. Okay, so for example, if you see this, that this is an, from here you do have a code for PHP. Like here, this is again a template code which we refer to as an HTML code. So the function name is hello with variables. So there are two variables here, hello and world. If I'm trying to return this, so here we are concatenating both these things, both the variables hello and world, then it will be displaying hello world on the first call. Then I'm trying to print the variables now. Okay, dollar hello and dollar world. Okay, and this will return nothing. Okay, yeah, neither an error nor it will do anything. Why? Because these are trying to access the variables which are local to this. Okay, so hence the local variables inside of a function cannot be accessed outside. Okay, so how to do so is, we can have a global variables now. Okay, the concept is bit differ here. Like in other programming languages, we try to write a global variables and we try to access the global variables inside of a function. But here, until and unless you use a keyword called as a global, so we have to use a keyword called as a global to state the compiler or interpreter that this variable is declared prior and I am trying to use this variable inside of a function. Okay, so if you see this example, this without global first of all. Okay, without global first of all, what will happen? This dollar my global will become a local variable now. Okay, without this keyword called as global. Okay, so this will be a local variable. Okay, which can't be accessed outside of this function now. Okay, so if I precede this is global, what will happen? It try to access the variable which is declared outside of a function. Okay, so this is try to access the value of an hello there. Okay, so now hence the reason it displays hello there. Okay, so now you need to have create a variables outside of function to use it as a global variable. So let us take a look example of this. The same thing, like what this function is trying to do. This trying to create a global dollar my global as a variable, and it is trying to assign some value to this. Okay, whenever I use the keyword called as global, then that particular variable will become a global variable. Okay, what is a global variable? Which can be accessed anywhere in the program is called as a global variable. Okay, so hence the reason now this variable is become a global variable. So actually internally it maintains a super global arrays, super global arrays we call it as an. We'll see what are all the super global arrays are. Just remember this point. There is a super global array called as an global. Okay, inside of that actually all these variables will do reside. We'll see this. So no, that I'm talking about super globals. Like there is one associative array called as in dollar globals. Okay, so dollar globals, and there is some other super global arrays are also there, like dollar underscore get, dollar underscore post. We'll see in the next class that what are the importance of all these super global arrays are, and how we can use super global arrays, okay, inside of a PHP. So try to remember that whenever we are trying to create a variable, so this is now not this is a normal variable actually. Okay, so if I give this as a global, prior to this if I give a keyword called as a global, okay, then this variable will become a global variable. So when if I write a global followed by dollar my global variable, okay, then what will happen when I precede this with a global keyword, then actually it tries to go inside of this super global array. Okay, so what is this super global array is now? So this super global array will hold all the global variables. Okay, so which can be accessed via the name of this variable name. Okay, for example, let us try to write a super global variable like x equal to 10. Like if I write global, okay, so this x will become a global variable, no? And comma dollar y equal to 20. Sir, can I separate two variables by comma preceded with a keyword called the global? Yes, absolutely. So this will try to create an global variables. Both will become a global variables now. Dollar x and dollar y will become an global variables. Okay, so what will happen now inside of an array? Which array this is? Globals array. Inside of this global array, two variables will be created. One will be dollar $x, one will be dollar $y, and whose value will be 10 and whose value will be 20 now. Okay, so this the name of this array is dollar globals. Okay, so you can try this practically in the PHP compiler interpreter at your end, because if I goes on typing, it will take time for us. Okay, static keyword. What is the static? So hopefully you know from Java as well as from C programming language, the principle relates the same. Like whenever you create a variable inside of a function, okay, function fun1, okay, and I'm trying to create a variable like dollar x equal to 0. Okay, so now every time whenever I call this function fun1, so this dollar x variable will be created, which is a local variable. and whose value will be 0 now. If I call again, for example, okay, the value again $x will be 0 only. Okay, so how many number of times you call, that value will be non-persistent in the sense the value will be initialized to 0 every time. Okay, so I want this value to be get persistent with the previous value, the previous state. Okay, then I can use a keyword called as static, which makes this value to become a persistent. For this example, if you check this function next number, here there is one variable called as an counter equal to 0, and what we are trying to increment, we are trying to increment plus plus of counter. Okay, so first time I called next number, so what will happen, first it go inside of this function, it try to create a counter and increment it and return value called as an 1. Again I am calling, if I call it again, what will happen, then the function next number will be called. Okay, is again initialized to 0. It don't know the previous state, that previous state was 1. Okay, if I want to persistent this state, then I can precede this, variable with a static keyword. At that time what will happen, at that time the value of this variable will be persistent now. Okay, so you can observe that here it is printing 3 ones, but if I use static, yeah, this is not there, but here what I can do is, we can try to write it here static. Okay sir, can you please explain with an example? So I think these are all the same principles with your C programming language, which takes some time for us to again recompile all those things. But let us go with an example. Let us check this function. So I'm just trying to remove everything, and I'm trying to create a function whose name is like next number, dollar counter equal to 0, and what I am trying to return plus plus of dollar counter. I'm trying to call now echo first call dot next number. Okay, so this I am making 3 calls, for example, first call, second call, and third call. Okay, I save this and try to open WAMP. WAMP is there, yeah, no, WAMP is not there, so I have to on WAMP server. Okay, so once WAMP server is on, then I can go with an browser where local host followed by the folder name which we have created previously, samples slash functions dot php. Okay, so if you observe, first call is 1, second call is 1, third call is 1. Sir, we are confused, so have a break in the sense br here. So how can I write this? So here I can write dot double quotes br slash double quotes, and I'm trying to add this for all the things now. First call is 1, second call is 1, and third call is also 1, because every time the variable is created and the scope of the variable is lost, hence the reason that the value is 1. So I want to make it persistent, then here I can simply add static as a keyword. Okay, so now you can observe that after the first call it has a persistent value because it's a static, then the second call, the third call, the value is now persistent throughout all the calls. Okay, this is a simple example of static. So creating anonymous function, actually this is a deprecated method in PHP, but still you have to know that you can able to do that with the help of an function called as an create function. So all the game in PHP is you have to remember the number of functions. Okay, like there are many functions which are available. So if I know the exact usage of the function, then it's very easy for me to write a PHP code. Okay, so probably you need to use all the inbuilt functions to write a perfect code. Okay, in this example, if you can observe that there is a function called as an create function, which try to create a function which takes two parameters. Okay, so actually these two are the number of parameters. So actually it expect two arguments. One is a comma separated list of parameters and the code for the function body. Okay, minus the curly braces but including a semicolon at the end of each line of the code. In the sense, this is very similar that what we have done inside in JavaScript, okay, to create an anonymous function, okay, with the help of a function constructor, if you remember carefully. So in this example, you can observe here, we are trying to create a function which takes two parameters now. Okay, so the syntax is actually, this is the first single quote and this is a second single quote, which states that this is a first, this whole is a first argument. Okay, first parameter, this is a second parameter. So the function is trying to take two parameters now. One is the list of parameters and the second one is the function body. Okay, so you can observe return $a, $mode and $b. So $mode will be some variable here which is doing concatenation at this instance. Okay, so it tries to create a function which takes two parameters $a and $b, and it is trying to return $a, the mode is plus, so it is trying to do a addition on $a and $b, and that is being written. So the name of the function now is process numbers. Okay, you can call this process number as a normal function now. Okay, so here we can see that we can process this with a normal function. Okay, so this 2 comma 3 will be passed, but if I call this like anonymous function, I think I have created is already anonymous.php. Now you see this that actually it prints the result now 5. Okay, the addition of both these things are 5. So let us open this, open all files here, anonymous. So like 7 plus 3 and try to refresh this 10. We are getting the result, but accordingly we are getting a warning. This is a warning stating that this function create function is deprecated, okay, at line number 8. So better not to use the deprecated methods. So it's giving a warning to us, so we can hide these warnings within settings in PHP that we can do, but the anonymous function is deprecated now. Okay, so but still you can able to use it according to the purpose. Okay? Right, so working with references. So what is the references? What is the reference? Can anyone tell me what is the reference? What is the reference? So far we are passing a values to a function, that is with a pass by value. Pass by value, in the pass by value what will happen? Suppose if I am writing a function square root, okay, which is taking some $x, okay, and we are trying to call the square root of $sum m. Okay, means a value will be copied to this. Okay, this is passed by value. Okay, we are calling a function with the help of a value, means the original m will not be modified. Okay, it makes a copy inside of x, means the value of m will be copied to the value of, to the x, and then the operations is performed over here. Okay, this generally happen with a pass by value. Okay, but you want to pass by a reference. Okay, in this example if you observe reset counter, we are passing one variable here $c, and we are trying to make the $c to 0. So initially counter is 0, so it increment by 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so hence it displays 3. Now I want to reset the counter, means I want to reset this value called as dollar counter. So reset counter, I am passing this variable dollar counter. Well, what happened now is this dollar counter is copied to C, and the C local variable is getting initialized to 0, but not this dollar counter. Okay, so understand this principle here. That is the reason that even though you display this, it displays again 3 only. Okay, it is not resetting the dollar counter. Why? Because it is the mechanism of pass by value. Okay, so what is the references? Reference is like creating an alias name. So I want to create another name for this dollar counter. So I want to refer this dollar counter memory location. Okay, then I can use references. Okay, so PHP provide a mechanism called as an references, where I can use a ampersand symbol in front of an variable name. Okay, so see this. This is a memory location where you have 123, and it is referred to as dollar myvar. Okay, now you want to create a reference for this. Okay, means you want to create another name for this. Then you can give ampersand of, you can give an ampersand of another name. So this is my reference, dollar my reference. So either using the memory with the my var or my reference means the same now. Okay, so it creates an alias name for this, and by the name of this alias name you can able to access this memory location now. Okay, so that you can observe it here, like 123, and we are incrementing actually the reference, which in turn increment the myvar, and which in turn it increment the actual value. So that is the reason that this is 124 now. Both myvar as well as the my reference will be 124. The same principle can be used in the function now. So passing references here. So instead of making normal variable, I use ampersand followed by dollar variable name. Okay, this ampersand now generally try to create a reference to a calling function. Okay, like my fun. So I'm trying to call like $a. Okay, so this will be reference now. Okay, so this will create a reference to this $a now. Okay, modifying this dollar reference is equally modifying the $a actually. Okay, so see this here. So in the previous case there was no ampersand. Now the ampersand is included now, in the sense that this counter, dollar counter, is equal to 0. Means this is a memory location. Okay, which is pointing to this, means we are trying to create another alias name for this called as $C. Okay, with an ampersand. So either making use of dollar counter or $C means the same now. Okay, so that is the reason if you use dollar counter here, it will create an alias name which is a very similar like dollar counter, and hence dollar counter is now becoming an 0. Okay, so hence the reason you can see the difference here. In the previous case it displayed 3, but now it displays zeros. Okay, so a very simple thing, like pass by value and pass by reference. There are two types of mechanism where you can pass the values. Okay, or pass the parameter, or parameter passing mechanism we can also call as. Okay, pass by value and pass by reference. Returning references, this is also possible, that your function can able to return a reference. Okay, see this here, this all principles came actually from your C and C++. So this ampersand actually trying to returns a reference to dollar var. Okay, so this is also possible that a function can return a reference. Okay, so see this example, return by reference. Okay, we are creating one variable my number equal to 5, and one global, we are trying to access this globally $5, and return $my number, means this is trying to return a reference. Okay, so here if you see this, This is a function call you are making. Okay, so my number reference. So as it is returning a reference, not a number, please remember this. Okay, as this is returning a reference, hence the reason this is ampersand here. Get my number. This will return a reference for me now. A reference of whom? Reference of dollar my number. So that is actually stored in number reference. If I increment number reference, it actually we are trying to access that dollar my number in a sense. Okay, so see this. If I'm incrementing the reference of this, then the actual value of my number is also getting incremented. Okay, so this is called as a return by reference. Okay, we are returning a reference from a function now. See the difference here, there is an ampersand symbol. Okay, and the function call, this is a function call, there also you need to specify an ampersand symbol. Okay, so this is a recursive functions. Recursive function is similar in from other programming languages. You can call upon the same name inside of a function. So function calling to itself. So there can be direct or indirect recursive functions can be. So a is a function, like function a. Okay, and you're calling a inside of this. Means this is an direct recursive function. Okay, indirect recursive function is something like there is an a. Okay, and you are trying to call that to a b, function b, and function b in turns call to an a again. Okay, this is making a cycle now. Okay, like a is calling to b, means inside of the body of this you are calling to b. Okay, and the b is calling again to a. So this is generally referred to as an indirect recursive function. Okay, so now so let us analyze this simple recursive function, that is an Fibonacci series, where if $n is equal to 0, if $n is equal to 0 or $n equal to 1, then return that n, or else trying to make a reverse of that. Okay, so we are making some iterations. Let us take these iterations as 10. So now what will happen? This is trying to call the Fibonacci series upon a given number, like $1 for example. Okay, when the 1 is passed, then if it is either 0 or 1, then that particular corresponding number will be returned. Okay, like 1. Okay, the second time this will loop upon this, and it is trying to create an iteration. Okay, so number 2, so the number 2 will be passed over here, and it trying to check whether the what type of what I need to do is, okay, so it is trying to make an recursive function here. Okay, so and so on. So it tries to make a series, like in this case you can observe, open Febo. So this is a simple Fibonacci series. Okay, so here there is a function, and we are calling this for iterations of number of times. So this function is trying to return $n-2 plus $n-1 until it becomes 0 or 1. Okay, and inside of this iteration you can try to understand that here this is from here to here, this is a snippet of code of PHP. Okay, and afterwards there is a break here which is trying to uh, print an alternate class. Okay, this alternate class is nothing but, so it is trying to take an ALT class. So ALT class is there here. Okay, this ALT class is trying to take a background of some different color. So here we are just trying to check that whether it is an uh, a even number or odd number. Depending on that, we are changing the color of that. Okay, so this actually can do with the JavaScript also, with an first child, last child, or even or nth number of child, that you can do it. But here with the help of a PHP code we are doing this. We are trying to check whether the number is even or odd, and trying to apply that class to that. Okay, that every individual row will be in an alternate color. Okay, as this is inside of a for loop, so from here to here dynamically it will create an table rows, TRs, and from here to here again there is a PHP code to end this for loop. Okay, this is open of this for loop now. This is the opening of for loop and this is a closing of the for loop. Okay, right. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to print this inside of a table. So table, dynamically a table will be created. So above here we do have first th as sequence, second th as value. So let us execute this, then you can able to understand. So what is the name of this program is febo febo.php. Okay, so as the number of terms are 10, so hence the reason it is printing up to f10. Okay, so now you see this, like this is a sequence and this is a value and this is a color that what we are generated. Okay, so with an alternate now. Okay, so suppose sir I want to change the color, then change the alt color of background to some other color. Okay, it's like ff red 0000. So because ff stands for 0, that is the sorry, ff stands for the maximum number, that is for red, so hence it is displaying as red now. So this is like css, we are trying to apply a style shade. When it is an even or odd, we are trying to apply that. Okay, but for very first thing, this is using an fixed one. Okay, that you can observe this here, like em border style equal to width and so on. This tr and th at the first iteration, if you observe that this is the th and td. For th the background color is 999, that is the reason that it is printing the first thing as in a gray color. Okay, so how is printing f0 f1 f2 and so on, you can observe this here. Like we are having subscript of superscript as an what, as a tags. Okay, html tags that you have observed recently. That after this f, subscript of first dollar uh, I. Okay, what is dollar I value? Dollar I value is initially starting with 0 and up to 10. Okay, because the iteration starting from 0. Okay, so this dollar 0 will be printed, which will become a subscript for this. So hence the reason it is printing f0 now. Okay, as a subscript. Okay, and it is trying to print all the terms. Sir, I want to increment this like 15 terms. Then save this and just try to run this, and it will become up to 15 terms. Okay, so this is a very simple case of calling a recursive function. You can try it for a factorial of a number. Okay, instead of this, just write a small modified code and try to find out a factorial for a given numbers. Okay, like 1 2 3 4 5 up to 10. Up to 10 you try to find out this. Okay, so all the programs I will send you, don't worry. So this is a same mechanism like what you have learned from C or Java. The function calling to itself is called as a recursive function. Okay, this is all about today's class, functions and function, different mechanism of function. Let's have a quick review like what we learned. Function definition, then how the function can be created with the help of a keyword called as a function, followed by a function name, followed by a parameter list, then followed by a parenthesis and the body of the function. Okay, then the function call is similar like other programming language. Then optional parameter and default parameter, you can provide a default parameters to your function. Okay, then returning values from your function, you can use a return keyword to return a value from your function. Okay, and local and global variables, like local variables cannot be accessed outside of a function. So you need to have a doubt now, sir, if both the variables are same inside of a function and outside of a function, then what will happen? It maintains its own state. The local variables will not be reflecting the variables which are outside of a function. Means suppose if I use dollar, try to understand this, like if I'm outside of a function, if I'm using dollar hello equal to some x. Okay, so it has its own variable, outside of a function. Okay, both the variables will be treated as differently. Okay, so if you want to make a variable as a global variable, then you have to use a keyword called as a global preceded by your inside of a function. Okay, that makes this variable to be a global variable, and it will make an super global array. Inside of that super global array, inside of that it will try to create an variables. Okay, so that I was talking about, that it to have a super global array, and that we can access. Okay, we'll see all about super global arrays. What are all the different super global arrays are? At that time you try to recall me this, we'll see this example. Okay, then static variables, which preserve the state of the function calls. Okay, and anonymous function, we can use the create functions to create anonymous function. And references can be created by an ampersand symbol instead of a parameter list, and where it can also return a function can return a reference, that we have seen a returning a reference from our own function. And at last we have seen what is a recursive functions. Okay, so I will send you with this PPT, just check that. So, and we'll continue the class now. We'll see now files and directories. Okay, so this is very similar, like creating a file, okay, deleting a file, reading from a file, writing into a file. These all principles what you have seen in your C programming language or from Java programming language, the principle is same here also. Okay, so files and directories. Actually, I did not wrote the content, but accordingly we'll see this. First of all, we'll try to see what is a file and directories. So how the files and directories are differ. Okay. Then we'll see how to read or write into a file. Okay, then how to work with an directories, how to create the directories, remove the directories, and so on. Okay, before reading and writing, we'll see open and close. So that we call as an f open and f close. All the function names, please remember, all the function names are similar with C. Okay, with C programming. Okay, means suppose. So what is a file? File is nothing but a file is a collection of sequence of bytes that are stored on a hard disk. Like if I have first byte, second byte, third byte, fourth byte, and so on. So it stores a sequence of uh, bytes in a order. Okay, and this can be of two types of files. Generally we refer to as text files or binary files, and many different types of files are there, like media files, image files, and so on. But all the files are nothing but it's just a collection of a bytes that is stored on a hard disk or some other storage media. What is the other storage media is, like it can be SSD or it can be external storage devices, and so on. A directory, what is a directory? It's also a file actually, but it's a special type of file that holds the name of all the files and directories inside of that folder. Okay, means it is also a file which is trying to hold all the directory names, file names inside of that. Okay, so generally a Unix will treat Unix or any operating system treats a folder also as a file. Okay, no, Unix based operating system will try to refer something, the path, something like this. Means there is an home directory, inside of that there is a mat directory, there is a data directory, there we have a text file called as data.txt file. Okay, similarly in Windows we'll use this, like this backslash for referring what, the path. But whereas in Unix we'll use the forward slashes to refer the path. Okay, now information on a file, I can see that whether a file exists or not. Before opening a file we need to check whether the file exists or not. Okay, so this try to send us a true value, it returns true if the file in the specified path exists. Means we are trying to check whether a file exists into this path or not, or it will return a false. So this is the best mechanism that we need to, before accessing a file, before reading a file, we need to check whether that file exists or not. Okay, so what is the general principle of files are nothing but files, we use the files to store the data persistently. Persistent is nothing but permanently. So first of all we have to open the file in some mode. Okay, what are the different modes are available? You already know that there is a reading mode, writing mode, appending mode. Okay, so those modes are helpful to open the file. So once the file is open, then actually what happens is, when the file is opened, then a file pointer will be associated with that, which is trying to figure out that where the location of that pointer is. okay, and it will try to write into that particular file or read from the file according to the mode you have been specified now while opening the file. So after doing the operation successfully on the file, we can close the file with the help of a function called as a close function. Okay. So there is another function called as file size to determine the size of a file on the hard disk. So these are all the extra functions which are available to check the information regarding your files. Okay. So retrieving a file from a path. So what is this? This is nothing but it is providing some additional methods. We are not at all gone into an exactly opening a file, reading from a file. We'll see examples of that. But before going to that, you see this, that there is a function called as an base name. Okay. So we are just talking about the functions like file exist, file underscore exist, okay, file size. So this is actually the functions which are helpful for us to write the code effectively. Okay. Similarly, we have a base name. What it tried to do, the base name, it takes the complete file path and return just the file name. So it is trying to take the full path name and it will only return the file. Okay. So now if I give a directory for a base name, then it will give only this last which is occurring. Okay. So base name is helpful for me to retrieve the file name or to retrieve the directory name. This is helpful. Okay. I will tell you when it will be helpful. So if you don't want to want the file extension or suffix, you can remove this off. Okay, means you don't want this .doc to be included. You just want only my file as an extension. Okay, so you want to remove the extension, then you can provide an extra thing to this, okay, to the base name. Okay, so now come exactly the opening and closing a file. So now, so what are all these things are you are discussed. This is all about just that how a file will look like, and what are the different methods which are available to handle a file. Okay, like file exist, file size, okay, base name. These three functions you remember that this will be helpful for us. Now comes exactly what is opening and closing a file. Okay, when you open a file, you create a file handle. Actually, that file handle is nothing but it is a pointer. Okay, so it is a pointer that is associated with the file. Okay, the file which you have been opened. So the purpose of that is either you want to open for what purpose, either to read from a file or to want to write into a file. Okay, that is two basic functions are there. Okay, now file handlings are actually resource types. So in the data types, uh, in the data types there are different data types called as primitive data types. Okay, then compound data types. Then comes a resource data type. I will explain you. Okay, that how different data types can be. Okay, and what different types of categories are. Resource data types are nothing but it looks the whole file as a resource from with the help of which you can able to do certain operations on a file. Okay, so some PHP functions work directly with the file without needing to open or close it. So there are some functions with the help of which you can directly able to read from a file and write into a file without opening. That we'll see now. Okay, but generally what we'll do, we'll open a file and we'll close the file with fopen and fclose function. So fopen, how the fopen is, fopen, this is the syntax of fopen is, it takes two parameters, two arguments. One is the file name which you want to open, in what mode you want to open, either in a read mode or into a write mode. Okay, similarly you can also provide a path. Okay, that is either a web or FTP path. Web or FTP path is nothing but means you want to open a HTML file from internet, then you can do this. Okay, then if you want to open the file from FTP, from a these are different protocols now where you can open the file. This we'll see that how to open a file from a remote location. Okay, and how to read that particular file is. But generally if you want to open the file from my own drive, then I have to specify the path that where this file is located. Suppose file is located in C under some path, then I can go with that path. Okay, or generally you can provide an the you can provide an path for that. Okay, either a global path or FTP path. That FTP path can be to an FTP or HTTP. Okay, so now there are different modes which are available. One is called as an read mode. Okay, read plus mode. So open the files for reading and writing purpose. So actually try to place the file pointer at the beginning of the file. So whenever I'm trying to open the file, then the file pointer will be located at the first byte now. Okay, so in write mode, it try to open into a writing mode. W plus mode, both reading and writing. Any existing file content will be lost, in the sense that if I'm trying to open that in a W plus mode, then if already the file do exist, then it will delete the content of that file and it will try to overwrite the content with a new content. Okay, append, we try to append the data to that file. Okay, and A plus for reading and appending, both can be done at a time. Okay, data is written at the end of the file of the existing file. So what do you mean, what is the difference between the W and A is, if you open the file in a mode of an A, then it will directly point to the end of the file. Okay, there is an end of file terminator, which, so file pointer will be pointing to the end of the file. That is the reason that it try to append from here. Means already there are some 20 bytes are there, or some data is there inside of that. So from that point it will try to write the other data, that we refer to as an appending. Okay, right, let us see this example. RB. So here the B stands for binary file. You can tell the interpreter that you can also append some values called as an B or T. We generally refer to as an binary file or a text file. So if you want to work with a normal text file, you can just simply give the R, or if you want to work with a binary file, give the mode as B, forward with the preceded with the mode. Okay, right. So if you see this statement, if not of, wait forever. Yeah, I don't know what happened to your classes. Only 47 or 48 members are attending and still you are leaving. Okay, right. So now the RB mode is for reading from a binary file. So if you observe this, that if not of handle of fopen, means if fopen does not exist, if fopen does not have a file called as in data.txt in that current location, and current is nothing but dot slash is nothing but in the current directory. If data.txt is not there, then it attempts to fail of reading of this. So this dollar handle will return false. Okay, the false of not of this will become true. Okay, then if it is true, the dive function will actually try to exit out of the PHP code. Okay, so this is a better mechanism that we need to check the error whether file exists or not before reading that. So this we need to follow every time we need to open a file. Okay, right. So we'll see examples on this in the next class. So this is to open So after opening, we need to close a file. That this is a resource that resources are actually need to close properly after the usage. Okay, so that we refer to as an close the resources properly with an f close. Okay, we'll see all these functions now. So how to read, how to write. So if you observe, these all functions are very similar, like what are all the functions which are there in C programming language, like fread, fwrite, fgetc to read a single character from a file, to check whether end of file has been reached or not, to get s to get a single line at a time. Okay, and so on. Okay, so we'll see all this in the next class. Okay, so this is the end of today's class, that we have ended up to reading of a file. We'll see practical in next class, in the tomorrow's class. Okay, so this is uh, this is regarding the files.